I never imagined that one dinner could change the entire course of my life. My name is Sarah Marie Carter, and I'm 26 years old. For years, I bent myself into knots trying to be the good daughter, the responsible one, the fixer in a family that always seemed to prefer my younger sister. I told myself that if I kept working, kept giving, kept showing up for them one day, I'd be recognized for everything I sacrificed. But that night at the dinner table proved how wrong I was. We were sitting in our Hartford home, the table neatly set, the clinking of silverware echoing in the tense quiet that seemed to fill most of our family meals. My mom smiled as she slid a small velvet box toward Avery, my younger sister. She opened it with eager hands, and inside lay shiny keys, a brand new Tesla worth over $100,000. Mom beamed, her pride shining as she announced it was Avery's gift for graduating college. My sister's smug grin as she twirled those keys is an image I'll never forget. And me? I sat there frozen, my fork midway to my mouth, my stomach twisting into knots. Because while Avery got free tuition-free trips, and now a Tesla, I had spent years working endless hours as an office assistant, balancing my father's books when his business collapsed, covering bills when utilities piled up, even chipping in for Avery's textbooks. I had been their safety net, and yet when my mom's gaze turned toward me, her smile was gone. Instead, her words landed like a knife. Sarah, next month, you owe $1 and $200 rent. The words sliced through me. Dad didn't say a word, sipping his wine. Avery jingled her new car keys, smirking like life had delivered her another golden ticket. And me, I felt betrayal so sharp it nearly broke me. I didn't argue. My chair scraped loudly against the floor as I stood. With shaking hands, I went to my room, packed my laptop, a few clothes, and left. No note. No goodbye. The Tesla glared at me from the driveway as I drove my old Honda into the night, heading toward my best friend Alyssa's house. That was the night I cut my family off. The next morning, I sat on Alyssa's couch, staring blankly at the cold coffee in my hand. But something gnawed at me, those bank statements I'd seen years before when I helped my dad with his failing real estate business. I had been his unofficial bookkeeper, sorting through accounts when his deals went south. I remembered numbers that didn't quite add up, transactions that felt suspicious, but at the time I hadn't questioned them. Now, with Mom's demand for rent echoing in my ears, I couldn't ignore it. I logged into the old joint account I'd once used for Dad's business. My access was still active, probably because he never thought I'd look. And there it was, withdrawals. $50,000 3 years ago when Avery started at Yale. Another $20,000 a year later. Smaller amounts after that, nearly $200,000 in total. The timing matched Avery's tuition, her laptops, her summer trips abroad. My chest constricted. This wasn't just favoritism, this was theft. Hands trembling, I dialed the number of James Bennett, my grandfather William's old financial advisor. He was retired now, but I found his number still listed. When he answered calm and steady, I introduced myself as William Carter's granddaughter. His reply shook me. Sarah, I've been expecting your call. Expecting me? My heart pounded as he explained. My grandfather had set up a trust fund for me. $200,000 meant for my education and future. My father Brian had been the trustee. The money was mine, left for me, and every withdrawal I had seen was unauthorized. James said he even had a letter from Grandpa outlining his wishes, and within minutes I had it in my inbox. The scanned letter appeared on my screen, and my eyes filled with tears as I read Grandpa's neat handwriting. To my dearest Sarah, this trust is for your dreams, a college, a home, a life built on your terms. Don't let anyone take it from you. He had seen it coming, he knew, and he tried to protect me. I leaned back on Alyssa's couch, staring at the ceiling, my throat raw with emotion. All those years I had worked overtime, skipped vacations, poured money into my family while my father quietly siphoned away my future. And my mother had the audacity to demand rent from me, knowing full well what they had done. Did she know the truth? Did Avery? The betrayal made me sick. When Alyssa walked in with fresh coffee and saw the look on my face, I showed her the letter. Dad took money, that was mine. $200,000. Her eyes widened. "What are you going to do?" she asked, voice fierce. My jaw tightened. "I'm going to find out how much he stole and make him pay it back." That day, I dug deeper. James sent me more documents, bank records, trust agreements, proof that my father had drained almost everything Grandpa left for me. Every withdrawal was tied to Avery, her tuition, her dorm, her trips, even her car insurance. My hands shook as I slammed the papers down on Alyssa's coffee table. "He used my money," I whispered, rage flooding me. "Every cent Grandpa left for me went to her." Alyssa's face turned pale as she read the documents. "This is disgusting. He planned this. And your mom just let it happen." Her voice hardened. "Sarah, you don't deserve this. You've got to fight back." Her words lit a fire in me. For years I had been the family's fixer, the quiet daughter who cleaned up their messes, who covered their bills, who asked for nothing. But no more. Grandpa's trust was supposed to be my chance, my shot at a better life. And I was not going to let my father erase that. I thought of Avery driving her Tesla, oblivious or maybe complicit. Did she know where the money came from? Did she care? My phone buzzed another text from Mom. I didn't read it. They didn't get to explain this away anymore. That afternoon, I called James again, my voice steady this time. "Tell me everything about the trust." He didn't hesitate. Grandpa had set it up in 2008 when I was 10 years old, specifically for my education and future. My father had legal control but no right to redirect the funds. What he had done was a breach of fiduciary duty. My hands clenched into fists as I listened. Grandpa's trust wasn't just money. It was his belief in me, his faith that one day I'd carve out a life on my own terms. My father had spat on that faith, turning it into fuel for Avery's golden path. And I knew then I wasn't going to stay silent. I wasn't going to let them bury me under their lies any longer. That evening, I researched lawyers in Hartford. My eyes landed on one name, Stephen Thomas Walsh, a trust and estate specialist with a reputation for holding corrupt trustees accountable. The reviews called him relentless. That was what I needed. When his assistant picked up the phone, I introduced myself and told her I needed to speak to him about a trust my father misused. She booked me a consultation for the next morning. When I hung up, my pulse was steady. My heart was still broken, but I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Power. They thought I would keep playing the good daughter, keep cleaning up after them, keep swallowing betrayal. But they were wrong. This was just the beginning. The next morning I walked into the polished office of Stephen Walsh, my stomach tight with nerves. His secretary greeted me kindly and led me to a conference room where sunlight spilled through tall windows, warming the mahogany table. I sat there clutching the folder of documents James had sent, my palms damp. For so long I had been invisible in my own family's story. But today I was here to be seen. When Stephen entered, he was sharp-eyed and composed, his handshake firm but not overbearing. "Sarah Carter," he said, his voice calm. I nodded. "Tell me everything. Tell me." And I did. I poured it all out, the years of sacrifice, the bills I covered, the moment at the dinner table when my parents gifted Avery a Tesla and handed me a rent notice. My voice trembled when I told him about the withdrawals, the bank statements, the letter from my grandfather. At some points I could barely speak through the lump in my throat, but Stephen's gaze stayed steady, focused. When I finished, silence hung heavy in the room. He leaned back slightly, folding his hands. "Sarah, this isn't just unfair, it's illegal. Your father had no right to drain that trust for anyone, including your sister. This is a textbook breach of fiduciary duty. If you want to pursue this, you have a very strong case." The words washed over me like cold water. Strong case. Illegal. Part of me wanted to collapse in relief, but another part wanted to scream at the injustice of it all. How could my own father steal from me so blatantly, so confidently, and still look me in the eyes every day? How could my mother smile while handing Avery the keys, knowing the price had been carved out of my future? "What would happen if I take action?" I asked. Stephen's jaw tightened. "We'd file a petition in probate court, demand a full accounting of the trust, and seek restitution. Depending on the evidence, your father could be held personally liable for the entire amount. It would mean confronting him publicly. Are you prepared for that?" Prepared. The word echoed. Was I? For years, I had avoided confrontation, swallowing anger in silence, hoping love might fill the void. But what had silence given me? Nothing but betrayal. I swallowed hard and said, "Yes, I'm ready." Walking out of that office, I felt taller, even if my knees still trembled. The city looked sharper, the air crisper. For the first time, I wasn't carrying the weight of their choices on my shoulders alone. I had someone who believed me, who would fight with me. But that night, when I returned to Alyssa's apartment, the war came to my phone. Dozens of missed calls from Mom. A text from Dad. "Don't do this, Sarah. Families handle things privately." And one from Avery, short and cutting. "Stop being dramatic. You're jealous. That money was wasted on you anyway." Her words burned. Wasted. As if my dreams weren't worth the investment. As if Grandpa hadn't seen me as worthy. My hands shook as I dropped the phone on the couch. Alyssa sat beside me, reading the messages with a scowl. "They're scared. That's why they're attacking you. They know the truth's about to come out." I nodded, biting back tears. Scared or not, they still had the power to wound me. Each word was another reminder that in their eyes I had never been enough. But then I thought of Grandpa's letter, his faith in me, and I breathed deeply. "Don't let anyone take it from you." His voice, his belief cut through their poison. The days that followed felt like stepping into a storm. Stephen filed the petition and the news spread fast. My father called, his voice sharp with anger. "Do you realize what you're doing to this family? To me, to your sister?" My response was calm, but my heart pounded. "Do you realize what you did to me?" I asked. Silence stretched on the line before he hung up. Then came my mother. She arrived uninvited at Alyssa's apartment, her eyes red, her tone desperate. "Sarah, please. We can work this out. Don't drag this into court. Think of your father's reputation. Think of Avery's future." Her words twisted in my gut. For years I had thought of their future, their needs, their comfort. But who had thought of mine? "What about me, Mom?" I asked, my voice breaking. "Who thought of me?" She looked at me, then really looked, and for a flicker of a second, I thought I saw guilt in her eyes. But just as quickly it hardened. "You've always been difficult, Sarah. You never understood sacrifice." Difficult. The label they had always given me when I refused to play the role they scripted. I closed the door, tears streaming down my face, but with my resolve like steel in my chest. Weeks passed and the tension mounted. Court dates were set. Family members whispered behind my back. Old friends from church messaged me, repeating the lies my parents spread, that I was ungrateful, greedy, tearing the family apart. At night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, fear gnawing at me. What if I lost? What if they were right? But each morning I opened Grandpa's letter. And each morning I remembered, this trust is for your dreams. Don't let anyone take it from you. When the first hearing arrived, I walked into the courthouse with Stephen beside me. My parents were already there, sitting stiffly at the other table. My father avoided my gaze, his face pale. My mother's eyes shot daggers at me. Avery twirled her car keys in her hand as if to remind me of her prize. The judge entered and the proceedings began. Stephen spoke with clarity, presenting the documents, the withdrawals, the trust letter. When the scanned copy of Grandpa's handwriting was displayed, my throat tightened. His words filled the silent courtroom, echoing louder than any accusation. My father shifted uncomfortably. My mother crossed her arms. Avery rolled her eyes. But I sat straighter, tears blurring my vision, knowing that for once the truth wasn't buried in shadows. It was here, undeniable. And in that moment, I felt Grandpa's presence with me, as though he were sitting beside me in that cold courtroom, whispering, "You're not alone, you never were." You. The first hearing ended without a final judgment, but the tide had shifted. The judge ordered a full accounting of the trust, every document, every withdrawal, every cent that my father had moved under his so-called authority. For years he had hidden behind his business failures, his smooth excuses, his promises that everything was for the family. But now there would be no shadows left to hide in. When we stepped out into the courthouse steps, reporters were waiting, microphones thrust forward, questions flying. "Sarah, do you believe your father stole from you? How does it feel to sue your own parents?" My throat tightened, panic bubbling up, but Stephen gently ushered me past them, his calm voice a shield. No comment at this time. Still, I caught sight of my parents lingering nearby, their faces twisted with humiliation. For once, the shame wasn't mine to carry, it was theirs. That night alone in Alyssa's apartment, I broke down. The stress of it all pressed down on me like a weight I couldn't lift. I cried until my chest hurt, until my throat was raw. Was I cruel for doing this? Was I tearing my family apart beyond repair? And yet beneath the grief, another voice whispered, "They tore it apart long before you fought back." A week later, Stephen called me into his office again. When I arrived, he had a stack of papers on his desk, thick and damning. The forensic accountant finished the preliminary review, he said. "Sarah, it's worse than we thought." He slid the documents toward me, and my eyes scanned line after line. Not just $200,000 gone, closer to $250,000. Money siphoned into Avery's tuition, yes, but also her car, her vacations, her graduation party. Even credit card bills in her name. Every cent of Grandpa's gift for me drained to build her gilded life. My breath caught anger rising like fire in my chest. I slammed the papers down, tears burning my eyes. They robbed me of everything, every chance, every dream. Stephen's voice was steady, but I caught a flicker of sympathy in his eyes. And now we hold them accountable. The next hearing was brutal. My father was called to testify. He sat stiff in the witness chair, sweat beading his forehead, his hands clenched tightly. Mr. Carter, Stephen's voice cut through the silence, calm but sharp. "Did you use the funds from the William Carter Trust designated for your daughter Sarah to pay for your other daughter's education and expenses?" My father shifted, clearing his throat. I did what was necessary. Sarah never showed interest in college. She was working, she had a stable life. Avery needed the support more. I was just reallocating resources for the family. My jaw dropped. Reallocating. He spoke of my stolen dreams like numbers on a spreadsheet, like my future was negotiable. Stephen pressed on. "Mr. Carter, were you aware this was a violation of your fiduciary duty as trustee?" Dad's face reddened. "I did what I thought was best." The judge's gavel struck, silencing the rising voices. But the damage was done. His words hung in the air like poison. And then it was my turn. The bailiff guided me to the stand. My knees shook as I sat, but when I looked down at Grandpa's letter resting in my hands, I felt a strength anchor me. Stephen asked gentle but firm questions, what the trust meant to me, what I had lost, what sacrifices I had made while my family lived on my inheritance. Tears rolled down my cheeks as I answered. "I worked 2 jobs. I paid their bills. I helped cover my father's debts. I gave up vacation school and a chance at the life my grandfather wanted for me. All while watching my sister get everything handed to her from money that was supposed to be mine. It wasn't just money they stole. They stole years of my life." The courtroom was silent, every word hanging heavy. For once, no one could dismiss me as dramatic or selfish or difficult. The truth was written on the tears that streaked my face, on the pain in my voice. After the hearing, Avery confronted me in the hallway, her voice sharp like knives. "You're pathetic. You think you look strong up there? You just look jealous. I earned everything I got." I turned to her, trembling, not with fear, but with a calm fury I had never known. "You didn't earn any of it. You were handed my future on a silver platter, and one day you'll realize gifts built on theft don't last." For the first time I saw her smirk falter. Weeks turned into months as the case dragged on. The stress ate at me. I lost weight, I lost sleep, but I also gained something unexpected, a sense of self I had never known. I was no longer the daughter begging for scraps of approval. I was the woman demanding justice. And then the judgment came. The court ruled in my favor. My father was ordered to repay the trust in full with interest. He was removed as trustee, barred from managing any family assets again. Avery's car and accounts tied to the stolen funds were seized. My parents' reputation crumbled, whispers spreading through the community, not about me, but about them. When the gavel struck that final time, I didn't cheer. I didn't smile. I simply wept, because justice, even when won, doesn't erase the wounds. That night I drove to the cemetery with Grandpa's letter in my hand. I sat by his grave, tears falling freely. "I did it, Grandpa," I whispered. I fought for myself, for what you wanted for me. I don't know if I'm whole yet, but I'm not invisible anymore." The stars above shimmered, and though the night was quiet, I felt his presence steady and proud. And for the first time in years, I felt free. When the court order was finalized, the weight of it landed like thunder in our family. My father's business contacts withdrew overnight, whispering about the shame of a man who stole from his own daughter. My mother, once so proud of her spotless reputation at church, now avoided the congregation's eyes. And Avery, her shiny Tesla, repossessed her credit cards. Frozen suddenly had to face life without endless gifts handed to her. But instead of satisfaction, what I felt was something different. Hollow, complicated, heavy. I had won. The judge had given me justice. Yet justice did not erase the images burned into me: my mother's cold gaze at the dinner table, my father's justification in court, my sister's sneer in the hallway. They had chosen Avery over me again and again. They had stolen, lied, and humiliated me. No ruling could give me back those years. Still, I tried to breathe. The first check arrived in a plain envelope, a partial repayment into the restored trust. Seeing the numbers in my account made me cry, not from greed but from grief. Because that money wasn't a gift. It was restitution for years of betrayal. Every dollar was a scar. Weeks passed. I moved into a small apartment in the city, nothing fancy but mine. I painted the walls warm colors, bought secondhand furniture, and planted a few succulents on the windowsill. For the first time, I felt the fragile beginnings of a life that belonged to me, not shaped by their control or their lies. At night, I sat at my desk and wrote stories I had buried for years. Stories about women like me, daughters who were silenced, who carried families on their backs until those families broke them. Each page was a release, each word a step toward healing. And then one evening, as I cooked pasta in my tiny kitchen, my phone buzzed with a call. I didn't expect it was my mother. I stared at the screen, frozen. After a long hesitation, I answered. Her voice was shaky, nothing like the confident woman who once told me I had no home here. "Sarah," she whispered, "your father isn't well. He's drinking again. Avery doesn't know how to handle anything. We need you. Please." My chest tightened. The words "we need you" twisted inside me like a knife. They had needed me when bills piled up, when debts grew, when my father's business collapsed. And every time I gave. But when I needed them, when I was desperate, they cast me out. I closed my eyes, steadying my breath. "Mom," I said slowly, "I'm sorry he's struggling, but I can't come back. I can't fix what he broke. Not again." There was silence on the line, then a sob, and the call ended. I set the phone down and leaned against the counter, tears blurring my eyes. It hurt because despite everything, a part of me still longed for family. But I also knew going back meant losing myself all over again. Months rolled on, and karma unfolded like clockwork. My father's health declined, his reputation in ruins. Avery stumbled without the cushion of money, scrambling to keep up the lifestyle she had once mocked me for not having. My mother, caught in the middle, grew smaller each time I glimpsed her from afar at the grocery store, her once proud posture bent with shame. And me, I grew. I published one of my scripts in a small magazine. I built a circle of friends who became my chosen family. I even started saving for a home of my own, not a mansion, not a Tesla, but something honest, something mine. One evening, Alyssa sat with me on my balcony as the city lights glowed beneath us. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked softly. I thought about it. The court battles, the loneliness, the nights of doubt, the tears I shed, the guilt I carried. Then I shook my head. No, because for once I didn't let them silence me. For once I chose myself. The last time I saw my father was in the hospital. Word reached me through a cousin, and after many sleepless nights, I decided to go, not for him, but for me. He lay in the bed, frail, his once commanding voice now reduced to whispers. When his eyes opened and met mine, there was no arrogance left, only regret. "I failed you," he whispered. "I thought I was protecting the family, but I destroyed it, and I destroyed you." Tears blurred my vision, but I stayed calm. "You didn't destroy me, Dad. You tried, but I rebuilt." He closed his eyes, a single tear sliding down his cheek. That was the last thing I ever said to him. Now, as I sit here telling you this story, I know some wounds will never fully heal. I will always carry the sting of being the daughter who was given a rent bill while her sister was handed a luxury car. I will always remember the silence of my mother, the smirk of my sister, the betrayal of my father. But I also carry something stronger, the strength to rise, the courage to fight, the resilience to create a life worth living. If you've listened to my story this far, maybe you know what it feels like to be the overlooked one, the betrayed one, the expendable one. And if you do, I want you to know your worth is not defined by how your family treated you. Your worth is defined by your ability to survive, to stand, to reclaim what is yours. So if this story resonated with you, please like this video, share it with someone who might need to hear it, and subscribe for more stories like mine. And tell me in the comments, have you ever been betrayed by your family? And how did you rise again? Because sometimes the sweetest revenge isn't destroying them, it's refusing to let them destroy you.